Hi, it's Victor Kim, and welcome to our midweek meditations. I want to talk about a difficult issue, a fairly controversial issue, but an issue that deserves, really demands our attention. I'll say three words, I'm sure you're familiar with them. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. I'll say three other words that some people have said. All lives matter. All lives matter. Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. They're both true, okay? They're both true. But timing matters and context matters. And if we were a society that truly believed that all lives mattered, then we would not be talking about Black Lives Mattering right now. If we were a country that believed all lives mattered, we wouldn't be talking about issues such as Indigenous lives mattering now. We would have long ago figured out that if all lives mattered, then changes needed to be made around systems that still allowed some lives to matter more than others. And the impact and effects of those systems are still around today. Christians, we cannot afford to be neutral in matters of racism. We can't afford to be neutral. Part of the problem is that we as Christians have propagated the idea that some lives matter more than other lives for many, many years. Slavery in Europe and parts of North America, slavery was defended by Christians as part of God's plan for the different races. Some Christians use the story of Noah and his sons as justification for the slavery of black people with black skin. The story from Genesis chapter 9 tells us that Noah got drunk and passed out in his tent. His youngest son, Ham, saw his father's nakedness and told his two older brothers, Shem and Japheth. So Shem and Japheth, they walked into the tent backwards and they carried a blanket and they covered their father's nakedness. So when Noah woke up and found out what Ham had done to him, although it seems very strange to say that Ham did anything to his father, actually, if anything, it would seem that Noah did it to himself. Well, in any event, Noah, when he found out, he cursed his son. Actually, he didn't curse Ham, but strangely enough, he cursed Ham's son, so his own grandson, whose name was Canaan. So Noah cursed his own grandson, Canaan, for something that Canaan had absolutely no part in. It's a very, very strange story. But if you're looking for some justification later on for Israel entering into the land of Canaan and conquering the people of Canaan, well, it's a nice story to have that Noah cursed Canaan in your back pocket. It's a nice story to have with you. And it's said that the descendants of Ham were people of black skin. And Noah had cursed Canaan and said that Canaan would be a slave to Noah's older sons, Shem and Japheth. Some people found justification in keeping black people as slaves. Now, it just seems to be such a strange story upon which to base or to justify slavery. But that's exactly what Christians did with this story. They used the story to justify slavery. And Christians also participated in the residential school systems, operating schools that took indigenous children from their homes and tried to erase their culture, their language, their very identity, all in the name of civilizing them. If all lives mattered, the slavery of black people could not have been condoned by any Christians. If all lives mattered, the forced assimilation of indigenous children could not have been supported by any Christians, no matter how well-intentioned. Now, you may say, well, that was then and this is now, and we can't judge the actions of previous generations by our current standards. Yeah, I get that. But I also think that we need to be guided by more than just generational standards. We have to be guided by more than just generational standards that might change from generation to generation. We have our scriptures, which contain timeless truths. And we read in the opening verses of our scriptures that God made all people in God's image, in God's likeness. Not just some people, not just people of a certain color, but all people. All people are created in God's image. And in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul writes to the church at Corinth, and he says that in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. As many of you were baptized into Christ, have clothed yourselves with Christ, and there is no longer any Jew or Greek, any slave or free, any male or female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. And if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, all heirs according to the promise. If we're all children of God, if we're all children of God through our faith, through Jesus Christ, if we're all made in God's image, in the likeness of God, then surely our understanding of the value of life, all life, no matter what the color of the skin, no matter what the culture or the languages or the practices, the value of all life, all human life must matter equally, right? I understand that if you've been watching the news lately, the truth is that some people make it really hard to love them. Some people make it hard to follow the command of Jesus to love one another, to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But the commands of Jesus are not merely commands of convenience. They're not just easy to do. Jesus calls us to love one another as he loves us because he knows how hard that's going to be. He knows how hard that's going to be. That's why it's so important. You know, there aren't going to be easy answers, but we cannot be neutral about the issue. We can't be neutral about the issue. There's no neutrality around racism. The solutions will not come quickly or easily, and they may not come at all. But that's not a reason for us to give up or to give in to apathy. Jesus once said, for example, that you'll always have the poor with you. But is that any reason for us to just accept poverty and not work to reduce it, to overcome it, to work for a society in which all people can know the dignity and share in the blessings of the life that God intends? Yes, racism exists and will continue to exist, but that's no reason for the people of God to turn a blind eye or to minimize the struggle of people who are trying to effect lasting change. We must be supportive. We must be part of the solution. As I said in last Sunday's sermon, we don't know the timing of God's plan, but we know that God has a plan, and we know that God is faithful. In following the ways of our God, the God who creates all life equally in God's image, who through our faith in Jesus Christ, all who believe can become equal heirs of the promise. In loving one another as Jesus commands us to do, we will see glimpses of this coming kingdom that God intends for all creation, for all human life. So let's support one another. Let's support one another as we work towards God's justice, as we work towards the unity and the dignity and the abundance of life that God intends for all who are created in God's image, in God's likeness. All people of every color, of every creed, of every race. May God bless us all and strengthen us and keep us as we work towards this end. Friends, the musical meditation today is from our music director, Jenny Berdetti, along with Andrew Whiteside, who's going to be doing a beautiful solo called The Bells. So I want to encourage you to enjoy the musical meditation. Just give thanks for the joy and the gift of music that can be celebrated by all people. I want to invite you to join us for our usual Sunday services at 10 o'clock on Sunday on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. Have a blessed week. God bless you.
Les feuilles s'ouvraient sur le bord des branches délicatement. Les cloches tintaient légères et franches siècles